I understand that everybody's rushing out to the theaters to see Superman this weekend, but did you know that there's a new vampire movie out too? It's based on a short story by Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King, and the trailer features a quote praising the movie from Stephen King. Interesting. And I can sum up this movie pretty well by telling you that out of the only handful of people that were in my theater, one of them fell asleep and snored very loudly. And when he woke up before the movie ended, he left and did not come back. And you know, sometimes people just be sleepy. But in this case, I get it, man. Couldn't blame you. But let me start off with the positives for this movie, because there are some. First of all, it's an interesting concept. It takes place after the events of Dracula. Abraham Van Helsing has actually gotten married to Mina Harker. They have had 2 children. They're living in America on this house on a hill, isolated in the countryside. And it's about their 2 sons finding out what their parents' history is and realizing that some shady shit might be going on with Abraham Van Helsing's actions. And it's kind of a psychological study about what would happen to a person after experiencing something like the events of Dracula. How do they move on from that? So it's an interesting idea, and the most interesting part of the movie is when it starts to feel like the movie Frailty, where the 2 sons are wondering if their dad is genuinely hunting vampires, or if maybe he's gone a little bit insane and he's actually just killing people. That part of the movie's when I perked up. I was like, okay, we actually have something here that's kind of intriguing and adds a little bit of tension and makes me curious to see where these characters are going to go. It's a solid idea, and Titus Welliver, who I will always know as the Man in Black from Lost, plays Van Helsing, and I thought he was good. He's a very stoic man, but he very much commanded authority, which works, especially because of his relationship with the older son. His father's very hard on him, trying to get him to study, and then once the vampire shit starts, trying to get him into that world, and he has this like laser focus to try to get his father's respect. And so Titus Welliver's performance as that father really works. It's in a 4:3 aspect ratio, which was not like strictly necessary, but I thought it was kind of fitting. It worked. It kind of helped sell the time period, which I thought was presented fairly well. For the low budget that it surely had, it looks nice. There's not a lot there. We're mostly on this house, on this hill with this small cast of characters, but they definitely make do with what they have production-wise, and the music is decent as well. But man, this was not even 90 minutes, and it dragged. There's so little that actually happens here. I don't know what the original story is like, but I know it's a short story, and there are very oftentimes issues when you drag those out to feature length. Not in every case, but definitely in this one. The first act of the movie doesn't work all that well because it's all mystery. It's all build-up as the boys are trying to figure out their parents' past and what's going on with them. But we already know that. We know what they went through. We know, in general, what the deal is. I didn't really feel that tension. It took until the boys figure things out and we start getting into the plot of them in this potential vampire hunting relationship with their father, where it got more interesting. It took a little while to get there. And then even once we got there, I never felt the relationships all that strongly. The older boy, I thought his performance was very one note. I've seen him in other things like The Holdovers and The Black Phone, speaking of a Joe Hill short story that was adapted into something that was actually pretty good. And he was good in those. I think here it's kind of an issue of the character just being one note, and that comes through in his performance. He's very much this furrowed brow, this expression the whole time. And for a while, I thought it worked because he is so laser focused on trying to get his dad's respect and then on making sure he does this vampire shit correctly. But as the movie goes on, I'm like, oh, genuinely, that expression is never leaving his face. Like, he's never changing his face at all. It made the character feel pretty one note, and the younger brother is more energetic, and once he finds out about the vampires, is actually very scared of them. And so there's an interesting dynamic you could explore there. But he's barely in the rest of the movie. He takes a major backseat. It's not like Frailty, where you actually have this drama built up between the 3 of them constantly. The little brother is not much of a presence at all after that, so it's a big missed opportunity. Or even the boys' relationship with their mother, who they're worried about, the side effects of whatever is happening with her based on her encounter with Dracula all those years ago. I never really felt this strong connection. There's not enough time really spent making me care about them as people. And even once we get to the part that is admittedly more interesting, where we start exploring whether or not Van Helsing is killing vampires or killing people, there's no real tension there. It doesn't actually delve deep enough into either of those ideas. There's vague mention about like, ooh, I wonder what could be beyond this house. We've only really been in this area. What could the world be like beyond this? Has it become this really dangerous place? But there's nothing actually done or shown to make us feel really any tension about that. And then the idea that there might not be any real danger out there and Van Helsing has just gone crazy, there's not really enough done to convince us of that either. There's not enough actually explored about his psychology other than the vague idea of, what if that happened? What if the events of Dracula could do that? And it's not gone into with any more depth than that. So it kind of just feels like frailty. It feels like these ideas that have been done before, but without all the things that made that movie good. There's certainly nothing new in terms of vampires. I cannot recommend this to vampire fans. The vampirism is extremely light. There's just a severe lack of tension and scares. All the scares they go for are these very lame little jumps, loud noises that are just not effective at all. It's a slow burn, but you better build to something good if you're gonna be that slow. And they just don't. I can tell that the ideas are there on paper about trauma, generational trauma, the faith you place in your parents, science versus the supernatural, all of these things, they're just not capitalized on at all. It feels really pointless, it feels really surface level, and if you're gonna be surface level, you better at least move fast. But if there's nothing for me to chew on, there's no real meat to the bones, and it's slow as fuck, ugh. If you're a big fan of slow burns and the early 1900s, you know, maybe there could be something for you here, but I think in conclusion, I just have to say watch Frailty. And Superman was awesome. I had a great time. Definitely one of the more boring horror experiences of the year. Just did not work out at all, really. But I would love to hear your thoughts on the film, whether you agree or disagree. We can have that conversation down in the comments, because this was all just my opinion. I recently did a review of the original I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you want to check out that video, I'm going to review the rest of that franchise over the course of the next week, leading up to the new one. So subscribe, stay tuned for that stuff. Thank you so much for watching, for the support. I really appreciate it. Leave a like on the video if you liked it, all that kind of stuff. It's great, it helps, and I hope to see you next time.